I thank God all the time for all the people that have been part of my life and career that have helped me get here and maintain this all this time. And thank you.
Alan Jackson's farewell tour marks the end of an era in country music, but the real reason behind his farewell is not what most people assume. Could there be a truth that fans have quietly suspected for years but never dared to say out loud? This is the story of a man who stood as a beacon for traditional country, a survivor of personal heartbreak and public change, and someone whose roots run deeper than his songs. At 67, Jackson is ready to reveal what truly shaped his decision to say goodbye. The farewell tour announcement. At 67 years old, Alan Jackson surprised millions when he announced his final tour, calling it Last Call, One More for the Road. The title itself carries a certain gravity, a recognition that this chapter of his life is coming to a close. Fans immediately felt the weight behind his decision, but many assumed it was driven solely by health concerns or the natural slowdown after decades on the road. Yet, Jackson hinted that the reasons were deeper and more complex than anyone expected. For decades, Alan Jackson stood as one of country music's most steadfast traditionalists, resisting the shifting tides of the genre's sound and image. His fans found comfort in his authenticity, but over time, the industry moved in a different direction, toward pop-infused beats and younger, flashier stars. The Last Call tour became a symbol not just of a personal farewell, but also of an era ending in Nashville, an era that Jackson fought to preserve. Despite his illness, Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, a degenerative nerve disorder that affects mobility, he explained that this was not the whole story. Most believed his health was the deciding factor. Yet there was a truth fans quietly suspected, but had not openly discussed. Behind the scenes, Jackson's farewell represented the culmination of years of changes in country music, personal trials, and a shifting identity for an artist rooted in tradition. He admitted feeling relief as he prepared for his last performances, confessing that the stage had become a place where he sometimes felt uncertain about his movements and presence. This vulnerability was rare for a man who had once played to packed stadiums and millions of eager fans. Even so, Jackson's approach to this farewell was calm and reflective. It came from a place of acceptance rather than defeat. The announcement sent shockwaves through the country music community. For many fans, seeing Jackson step away was a painful confirmation that the music they grew up with was fading from the mainstream. It was as if one of the last keepers of the country's original flame was closing the book. Yet, the reasons for his farewell were entwined with something beyond just music or health. They were wrapped in decades of personal sacrifice and witnessing the changing soundscape around him. Jackson's impact went far beyond hits and charts. He was a man who reached millions in moments of collective grief and hope, like after the tragedy of September 2001, when his song became an anthem for a grieving nation. He gave generously when Nashville flooded, investing in his community, proving that his heart was deeply connected to more than just his career. This farewell bore the mixed emotions of someone who had given everything and was quietly stepping back. Still, fans wondered if the struggle with his disease overshadowed his desire to keep performing. Jackson was candid that age had given him time to think, but the farewell was not a simple surrender to fate. It was a decision layered with years of observing a music industry that no longer fully embraced the sound and stories he had lived for. Despite all this, Alan Jackson remained a figure of integrity, refusing to bend to trends. Now, as he embarks on the Last Call tour, there is a shared sense of finality that transcends the usual farewell tours. Jackson's exit feels like more than just a retirement. It's a moment to reconcile a lifetime spent fighting to keep country music real. The truth behind this decision, the full story of why he is stepping away, is something fans have quietly suspected, but haven't fully faced until now. This delicate balance between legacy, personal struggle, and an evolving music scene sets the stage for understanding what really led Alan Jackson to say goodbye. It's a story that begins long before his farewell announcement and will reveal a lot about the man behind the music. Transitioning from this pivotal moment, it's important to look back where it all began. Deep in rural Georgia, where Alan Jackson's roots formed the foundation for a lifelong devotion to authenticity and hard work. Roots in rural Georgia. Alan Jackson was born on December 15, 1958, in Noonan, Georgia, in a small wooden house built by his grandfather. The house sat so close to the railroad tracks that young Alan could feel the freight trains rumble in his chest before hearing them. It was a cramped home, never designed for 2 adults and 5 children, yet it was filled with love, noise, and the kind of closeness that shaped his view of family and community. The boy grew up as the sole male child in a family that contained 4 female siblings, while his working-class parents taught him to value hard work from an early age. His father, Eugene, worked as a mechanic who dedicated his entire career to repairing engines at the neighborhood garage. Eugene lacked material wealth, but his hands represented both his work ethic and his technical abilities, which displayed motor oil stains yet showed his dedication to his work. Alan admired those hands deeply, perhaps even more than the fame he would one day achieve. Their home maintained an atmosphere of shared space because its residents practiced silent communication. The Baptist church served as their primary social venue because Alan's mother required her children to attend church services every Sunday. Alan discovered at church that his voice possessed unique vocal abilities. The congregation turned to watch him when he sang gospel hymns because they wanted to experience the power of his voice. Music formed a vital part of Alan's existence, but his path to the stage remained unpredictable. He spent his childhood in a small town where he chose to live his life while enjoying ordinary activities instead of pursuing fame. He purchased his first guitar after he reached his teenage years by saving money from various jobs and learning to play the instrument through self-instruction. He developed his musical abilities through ear training, which required him to practice playing musical chords while he endured the pain that resulted from using his fingers on damaged guitar strings. The Jackson family members did not possess any connections to the music industry, nor did they understand how professional music functions. Alan achieved his own success through his personal efforts, which demonstrated the character values of humility and perseverance that he learned in his formative years. The boy from the railroad house who spoke little showed no signs of becoming a star, but he maintained unbreakable determination. He didn't need anyone else to believe in him. All he needed was to keep playing until his hands knew the strings as well as his father's knew the tools of his trade. That love for country music and the simple truths it told stayed with him. Jackson admired the era when country music spoke directly to working people and reflected their real lives, a time when artists like George Jones and Merle Haggard embodied the soul of the genre. Alan dedicated himself to preserving the musical traditions of his childhood through his work, which made him the musical guardian of those sounds. His upbringing gave him not just musical roots, but a strong moral compass, the foundation of family and faith and sincerity, which he developed through his youth, helped him maintain stability during his forthcoming battles with fame and personal challenges. The early days he spent in rural Georgia served as his starting point for creating a life based on strong personal beliefs. Alan's background provides vital information about his musical appeal to audiences who found his farewell performance to be more than just an end to his career. The people move from their current existence to a new way of life, which includes storytelling that started in those modest beginnings located by the railroad tracks. From the quiet streets of Noonan, the next chapter of his story leads to the bustling, often unforgiving world of Nashville, where Alan Jackson's dreams faced their toughest tests. Early struggles and breakthrough. Moving to Nashville in the 1980s, Alan Jackson had almost nothing but his guitar and ambition. His wife Denise, a flight attendant, supported them financially while he took odd jobs and played local honky-tonks on weekends. The city was far from the quiet rural life he knew, and success was anything but guaranteed. For years, the rejections came regularly, with demo tapes collecting dust and doors closing in his face. The musician he wanted to become needed him to work in the mailroom of the Nashville network, because that position gave him access to music industry contacts. Yet he was unable to recognize existing opportunities. Alan continuously produced new songs while he spent his time developing his musical style through dedicated practice. The main reason he was able to survive his most difficult times was Denise's constant support, which showed her belief in his abilities. The moment when Denise decided to speak to Glenn Campbell at the Atlanta airport marked a crucial moment because she asked him which steps Alan should take to enter the music industry. Campbell showed immediate kindness because he gave Alan a business card that he said would allow him to visit Nashville. Alan's ascent to success began with his demonstration of bravery and generosity. Arista Nashville decided to sign him after he proved his worth through his first album, Here in the Real World, which showed that fans wanted to hear his authentic traditional country music. The release of Don't Rock the Jukebox extended beyond a normal song because it functioned as an important musical declaration. The song opposed Nashville's trend of adopting pop music because it maintained that country music should preserve its original musical identity. The marketing strategy went beyond its commercial purpose because Alan used it to protect his musical passion while showing his dedication to working-class listeners who resonated with his music. He achieved a 1990s professional ascent that brought him both chart-topping success and industry recognition without compromising his authentic self. Alan maintained his traditional cowboy attire while performing songs about values and life experiences which he knew well. His exceptional achievements were built on one fundamental principle, which he maintained throughout his career because he wanted to remain true to himself instead of taking easy paths to success. His music brought him authentic fans who trusted him beyond their appreciation of his work. Alan Jackson maintained his authentic identity as a musician who represented true artistry in an industry that favored short-lived trends and celebrity culture. The struggles he faced during his early life established his ability to handle both the positive and negative aspects of his professional journey. The hard beginnings that preceded our musical journey established the essential base that enabled us to create music that would impact millions until we reached the painful moment of our final farewell. Even as his journey took flight, the roots and struggles that shaped him remained central to the story still unfolding. Defending real country music. Alan Jackson's rise to the top of country music in the 1990s wasn't just about catchy songs or commercial success. It was a stand for authenticity at a time when the industry was shifting beneath his feet. While many artists embraced pop influences and slick production, Jackson remained firmly rooted in the traditional sounds that had defined country music for decades. His 1991 hit, Don't Rock the Jukebox, was more than a chart topper. It was a clear message to Nashville executives and radio programmers that the heart of country music should not be sacrificed for crossover appeal. The song's rebellious spirit challenged the growing trend of replacing steel guitars and fiddles with synthesizers and drum machines. Jackson wasn't merely resisting change for nostalgia's sake. He was fighting for the stories and voices of working-class people who saw themselves reflected in the country's honest lyrics and familiar melodies. His refusal to change his sound put him at odds with a music business focused increasingly on youth and image, but he stayed true to his vision. The 1990s and early 2000s made Alan Jackson one of country music's leading artists through his popular songs Chattahoochee, Drive, and Gone Country. The three songs created a unique blend of humor, heartbreak, and Americana that no other artist could reproduce. The collection of songs paid homage to common human experiences that emerged through pop country's growing popularity. Alan Jackson achieved commercial success because fans still wanted real country music, despite the music industry moving toward another style. The foundation of country music continued to experience growing cracks. Artists who fused country with rock, pop, and hip-hop music emerged as preferred choices for radio playlists during the 2000s because their party songs attracted younger listeners who disliked Alan's traditional country themes. The music of steel guitars became less audible while fiddles disappeared, and artists began to create songs about trucks and tailgates and cold beer. The genre's core identity disappeared, according to many dedicated fans. Alan Jackson and George Strait became the final custodians of traditional country music during this time period. The song became a major success, which served as both a warning and an unsettling prediction about the imminent industry transformation. The country music industry no longer spoke to the authentic experiences and values of millions who grew up listening to sincere country music. Alan expanded his dedication to his successful sound and storytelling methods instead of reaching a compromise. He rejected all image consultants while he maintained his working-class musician identity, which fans had trusted him to be. His steadfast refusal led to him losing radio exposure and public visibility because the music industry pursued emerging artists who created new social media trends. The decision made by him locked in his supporters, who remained devoted to traditional country music. Alan Jackson's songs attracted fans who found themselves reflected in his music, which showed their life experiences and personal beliefs that most stars of today do not show. His genuine self presented a safe space against the gradual change of traditional music styles, which resulted in his social distance from mainstream music performance. His unchanging commitment to his values during fast-changing industrial progress showed his musical dedication, which had developed throughout his life. His dedication to his work will face challenges because his personal life struggles will start to impact him. From the battles over the country's future, the story moves to a more intimate struggle, one that would change Alan Jackson's life in ways far beyond the stage. Personal trials and redemption. The life of a touring country star is often glamorized. But for Alan Jackson, the relentless pace brought serious challenges to his marriage and family. Years of being on the road, surrounded by temptations and distance from home, placed enormous strain on his relationship with Denise. The pressures that come with fame and success can unravel even the strongest bonds, and Alan's marriage was no exception. Early in their career, Alan spent months away from home, missing important family moments and drifting into choices that would devastate those closest to him. He was unfaithful to Denise, a betrayal made all the more painful given what she had sacrificed for his dreams. Denise had been his steadfast supporter long before fame, even approaching Glenn Campbell at an airport to secure a crucial business card for Alan's big break. Her faith in him was profound, and yet that trust was broken in a way that no success could repair. The public witnessed the violent events that occurred after the main events had finished. The media coverage of their separation brought attention to their personal matters, which resulted in their most intimate emotional scars being shown to the world. Denise faced heartbreak not just as a wife, but as the woman who had shaped and believed in the man Alan had become. Alan himself recognized the gravity of his mistakes because he admitted that he was not an easy person to love. Yet, he thanked her for staying with him during his most difficult moments. The couple who wanted to save their marriage discovered that their relationship needed something bigger than their own problems. Denise found her faith through God after she started developing a strong relationship with him, which her family found hard to understand. She achieved her forgiving power through her spiritual trip, which she described in her book, It's All About Him. The title signaled that healing came not from Alan's worthiness, but through surrendering pain to a higher power. The process of reconciliation between them provided authentic proof that love can last forever and that people can achieve redemption. The achievement brought personal success to the individual, but it also created a connection with country music fans who identified with its themes of forgiveness and faith and resilience. The couple represents one of the greatest love stories in country music because they built their relationship on graceful love rather than pursuing perfect love. The family still had to face more challenges, which they needed to overcome. Following several years, Alan's daughter Mattie had to face her most challenging moment when her spouse passed away from a boating accident, which occurred less than a year after their marriage. The experience of witnessing his daughter fight through such deep sorrow proved to him that neither wealth nor celebrity status could mend his broken heart. Alan transformed from his position as a performer into a guardian who battled the insurmountable anguish that all parents must endure when their children die. Alan Jackson used his music to express his personal life through both his joyful and sorrowful moments. The song Remember When developed deeper meanings that described a man who quietly thought about his life while experiencing love and becoming a parent and reaching old age. The lyrics contained built-in meaning because the artist had to conquer his obstacles while discovering his advantages and threats that awaited him. With this foundation, the next part of his story turns toward how national tragedy and personal grief shaped his artistry in ways that few others could match. Tragedy and national grief. In September of the year 2001, the world stood still as tragedy unfolded in real time. Like millions of Americans, Alan Jackson watched the news, his heart heavy with disbelief and sorrow. But while many were immobilized by the horror, something stirred within him. The songwriter's instinct to process a shattered world through melody and words. By night's end, he had penned most of what would become one of the most profound country songs of the era. Where were you when the world stopped turning? This song was unlike anything Jackson had written before, not in style or structure, but in raw emotional honesty. It didn't offer answers or political stances. Instead, it asked the simple, piercing question every American grappled with in those dark hours. Where were you when it happened? The power of that question carried the weight of a nation's grief and confusion, wrapped in a voice that felt personal yet universal. The Country Music Association Awards marked the first time Alan Jackson performed his song. The stage performance started when a guitarist entered without any introduction. The audience started crying during his performance, and the last note created a powerful emotional experience that brought people together to share their feelings of loss. Industry experts stated that the song reached its maximum effect because it went beyond musical skill to directly touch human emotions. The song received the CMA Song of the Year award and established itself as a national anthem that demonstrates how a single musician with a guitar can create unity and promote healing during national emergencies. For Alan Jackson, music served as his way to establish bonds with people who experienced deep connections through his work, which he understood from his early career until the present day. The family experienced a second personal tragedy when Alan Jackson's youngest daughter, Mattie, lost her husband in a boating accident, which occurred less than 1 year after their marriage. Alan watched his daughter experience intense grief, which required him to demonstrate both his abilities as a father and his manhood. The death of his family member showed him that nothing his family achieved through fame or wealth could protect them from losing someone they loved. He learned through personal loss that grief exists as both an individual and shared experience. Alan used his creative energy to make music through his periods of deep sadness. Alan showed compassion and strength when he comforted his daughter and helped people in his neighborhood. His music showed complex emotions through its combination of happiness with sorrow, and its presentation of hope alongside difficult situations. When the country he loved changed its tune, it left him to face not only personal challenges, but also a professional world that no longer seemed to welcome him with open arms. There, in the intersection of personal grief and industry upheaval, lies the story of a man battling more than just external forces, battling a disease that would come to define the most difficult chapter of his life. Battling a genetic disease. Long before Alan Jackson received his own diagnosis, he had already witnessed the effects of Charcot-Marie Tooth disease within his family. His father, Eugene, a lifelong mechanic, gradually lost strength and sensation in his hands and feet. Watching a man defined by his ability to build and fix things slowly lose that capability left a lasting impression on Alan, revealing how fragile both health and identity can be. Charcot-Marie Tooth disease is a genetic neurological disorder that affects the peripheral nerves responsible for movement and sensation. There is no cure, and its progression cannot be stopped. For Alan, the possibility of developing it was never far from his mind. His grandmother and oldest sister had also been affected, reinforcing the reality that this was a hereditary condition he might one day face. The diagnosis confirmed his longest-held fear, which he had already suspected before his diagnosis occurred. Alan pursued his passion for music by performing until his life came to an end. He maintained his professional identity throughout his life because he refused to let the disease control him. The public persona of the individual started to clash with his internal battles as time passed from that point. He maintained his role as a reliable performer during stage performances, but he battled the disease's gradual progress, which started to affect his body. He continued to perform and create music despite the condition's advancement because he resisted all limitations that came his way. The song "Remember" gains additional significance through this situation. The song now develops into a deeper understanding of human existence because people perceive time and love as its main topics. The lyrics describe a man who faces 3 major life events that include changes, the creation of his legacy, and the approach of his death. His wife, Denise, provided him with unending support during all his struggles. Alan achieved 2 different life challenges, which helped him develop a strong connection with his wife. The couple faced unpredictable situations with determination while depending on their faith and their shared past. The Charcot-Marie Tooth disease struggle that Alan Jackson faced demonstrates his actual reason for leaving the music industry. He needed to develop an understanding of his personal limitations, which he should respect, while he maintained his musical career, social connections, and built his lasting legacy. By facing a genetic disease with courage and grace, Jackson showed that true strength is not found in resisting change, but in accepting it with gratitude. The journey now moves toward unveiling this deeper truth, the final piece of the puzzle that explains why Alan Jackson's last call is more than just a goodbye. The real reason revealed. Alan Jackson's farewell tour may look like the natural end of a legendary career, but the truth behind his decision runs deeper than health issues or changes in country music. While his battle with Charcot-Marie tooth disease has played a role, his choice reflects something more personal, a quiet acceptance that some chapters must close so others can begin. For decades, Jackson stood as a symbol of consistency, refusing to bend his sound or values despite industry pressure. But over time, the demands of touring, the evolving music scene, and the toll of his illness added up. There wasn't a single defining moment, just a growing clarity that it was time to prioritize peace over performance and authenticity over expectation. His departure from the organization resulted from his medical condition, but Jackson argued that his age provided him with a better understanding of the situation. He left because he wanted to show people his appreciation through his choice, which showed him to think about his past. He used his fame to create authentic connections with common people through storytelling, which he considered his main purpose. The stories from his life, which he created, were based on his actual experiences during his life, which included his marital problems with his wife, the death of family members, and his experiences of watching his family members experience anguish. These experiences deepened his understanding of life's fragility and the importance of legacy. The actor chose to leave the stage because he needed to protect his most valuable inner self. His marriage to Denise serves as evidence of that fundamental truth. Their relationship developed strongly through their challenging times, which they handled together through their ability to forgive each other while maintaining their faith. She provided him with the power to make tough decisions while maintaining his self-respect, which helped him understand what matters most in life beyond his public image. The farewell tour, Last Call One More for the Road, presents a bittersweet experience that completes the current time. Jackson leaves the situation knowing his responsibilities while he finds inner tranquility through the process of closure. He built his everlasting legacy through his dedication to genuine work and authentic behavior in an industry that undergoes continuous transformation. His story shows that actual achievement comes from understanding when to stop working and depart with dignity. In an industry that constantly changes, his legacy remains timeless, built on honesty, hard work, and authenticity. More than awards or chart success, it's the trust of his fans that defines his impact. Alan Jackson's journey teaches us that true courage lies in knowing when to hold on and when to let go. His farewell is a tribute to a life lived with honesty and heart. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more stories about the voices that shaped our world. Thank you for watching.